NCUBE High. This is long overdue. This has been in my chest for the longest of time. I think since the last time I saw you in person. I wanted to explain things that I felt at the time you would think was very odd. I think you would have thought it was very odd, and I think it's because coming from a science background and a scientific mind, what people call spirituality is not normally understood. So I'm gonna try to be as honest as I can, and 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 please mind my language. I'll be as honest as I can, and as real. No facade, no smokes and mirrors. Um, it's been a crazy thing. I think one of the things I'm gonna say it off the bat, that from the time I met you, I knew that 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 we had a relationship that was beyond just a student lecturer relationship. And I wanted to explain something, and it's been finding the words to do so has been difficult, given the fact that you're from a different world. So in my world, it's maybe easier to understand. But what I've gotten to understand is that even people on my side have lost the ability to understand what I'm going to explain to you. There's something called a spiritual twin. And what I'm going to say to you, Professor Kim behind, is that when you became Kim behind and you married a man called MELUSI, you married my spiritual twin. And I'm going to make it, it's going to sound very, you married, so you didn't marry the man, you married his spiritual twin. And I happen to be that twin. And so, but what I'm trying to say to you is that our meeting was, very much a setup. So I'll give you reasons as to why I'm saying I'm gonna give you the background story of how I experienced, before meeting you, and after meeting you. So you'd understand. So I know, just to define it, spirituality is actually not about subscribing to a belief system or just believing things. It's actually very scientific. It's very similar to doing geology, and it's actually very similar to science. It's actually just about being able to perceive what is not really visible and finding evidence of things that are not, finding evidence of the truth of things that are not visible. That's what spirituality is, and that's so ironically, you practice spirituality in your work and in your career. That's what you were doing. And ironically, I got to learn that my scientific brain was actually just fundamentally how my ancestors functioned. That was the wisdom of my ancestors, being able to perceive and understand things that are not visible. Now, I'm going to take you through this and make you understand that when I say that you didn't marry MELUSI NCUBE, you married MELUSI NCUBE Ndawana. That's me. That's who I was, actually. That's who I was. And that's the thing about marriage. Marriage is a very weird thing, because when a man takes on a wife, the wife becomes like a helper. And I'm gonna explain how you were a fundamental helper to me. So I'm going to start the story back in my childhood, say my teenagehood. I'm at Parktown Boys, standing over the stands, and I have a couple of choices on a career that I could make. And the career choices was actual science or something like that, accounting, electronics engineering, so I had these scholarships to do these things, and I have to make a decision. One day I'm standing on the stand and I have this stark epiphany that, gee, one day I'm going to own the heavens. And that's when I realized, no, I should actually take on mining engineering. Given the fact that it was not the most difficult course, but the reason why I took it on is because I wanted to learn something, which is the ability to find the gold, being able to find the mineral deposits and know how to access them. And that was the primary thing. And the thinking was the fact that since that's everything that everyone or every human being is essentially chasing after the gold and after these precious minerals, my ability to access them and find these minerals would mean me having basically access to all the value that the human spirit can conceive and create. And that was what I understood very quickly in high school. This is high school, dude. That's like heaven. That's the fruits of the heavens. So if you were to ask for any gift, it's always dispensed through a human being. So this is the logic I have before I sign up to do mining engineering. So this is how I'm saying by the time I got to my third year, meeting you was like pretty much meeting my destiny, like meeting this epiphany, because like I didn't intentionally like plan it out. There was a moment where like bing, boom, right? So so that's what happened. Now now fast track a couple of years later, I meet this woman who walks into this class and she's like, my name is Professor Kim Nube Hine, and that happens to be my surname, by the way. Right? You know, that happens to be my surname. I'm like, all right. And then you tell this story about how you married some guy, MELUSI, that was like, you know, actually just the word that you used was pretty much eating shit. You know what I'm saying? He was like literally doing the plumbing or something like that. And this is how you meet this guy. And he just like professes his love for you. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Then you tell the story about how you did a whole traditional wedding. Now, I have to point it out to you that just as much as you said, I'm going to go to it now, just as much as you say black people don't read, we don't learn through reading, I found it to be very offensive. Like the first day you mentioned, I'm like, did this woman just say we can't read? I will tell you what happened right after that. I was so offended. And now what I'm saying is like um, the thing about African people, when we perform rituals, um, they supernatural because it's like you're communicating a message to like these beings on the other side that you know get the message and respond, right? So it's like code, it's like coding. So when you married this guy traditional wedding, you were taking like a vow to marry a guy that's Melusi Mube, essentially. Right? So you're getting married into this family. So the trick becomes like you think that you married the guy that you met, but you actually married somebody else. And this is what I'm going to explain to you is what we call spiritual twins. So this has happened to me 3 times with the 3 people that really were helpers to shaping who I have become. And you are fundamental because I I became what I became as a consequence of some of the things, the discussions that we had. Um, now, 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 the day that you made that comment, and you're like, black people don't learn through reading. I'm like, this woman just said we can't read. I go I go to bed and I have this dream where I see you sitting on my study desk with lingerie on, and I'm like, what? And there was a huge attitude adjustment. You know, attitude adjustment. Like, what the hell is this? So now after that dream, when I go into the class the next time, now I'm a bit curious. Now, like, okay, what is this about? Let's hear what this woman's got to say. And I gotta be honest with you. Um, Later on, I discovered from you that you had issues with your husband at the time and him losing his mind. Now, I'm already doing the math like, okay, that's not a coincidence at all. And the reason why I knew this is because at the time, I'm a young man. And you can imagine when, especially when in your like 20s, early 20s, like hormones are like. But I had this principle because I'd been around the Christian community from my childhood, and I was trying to. There's this thing called sexual morality. I was trying not to fornicate, so I'd avoid sexual contact, at all by all costs. Right, and I was quite effective at that. But now, when I'd spend time with you, it would be like, what is going on with my body? Just responding, boom, boom, like it would be impulse. It wouldn't be premeditated. It would be impulse, and this is what now intrigued me even more. Like, why the hell am I having these reactions? And now that I'm mature, I understand pretty much why. You know, um, so ultimately, long story short, um, you know, I go through the whole course, mining engineering. I nearly quit at some stage because, you know, I realized that my purpose had always been medicine, to work in the health sciences, because that's what matters more than chasing after money, right? But I persist, and I complete the course, and I graduate. And I think you came to my graduation party, and I don't know if you noticed, I was dying. I just come out of the hospital from being poisoned, mysteriously poisoned, right? It's quite odd. But you said something that, and to be honest with you, I'll be honest with you, I thought that was probably one of the last days of my life. I thought it would be like it was the end of me, right? But you said something that made me know that I'm not gonna die now. And you stood up and you said something like, "Oh, you know what? Leave Mike alone. He knows what he's doing. One day he's gonna free Africa." Now I'm just like, whoa! I had no idea that you had that. You thought of me that way, and this is why I understand now the reactions, because I want to explain something. There's something I've developed called the right to do manyobi nobi. That's like the right to have sexual contact. You know, what in from a Christianity point of view, or from a moral religious point of view, what is sexual morality? And this is to explain it to you actually. Right. So you say something that's crazy. You say, "Oh, Might is gonna free Africa one day," and I'm like, "How did you know that was my intention. So relating to someone, and I'm just giving it to you now, there's three levels of intimacy, and you know, right? There's being able to relate to someone, there's being able to grow, basically change, and there's creating memory and sentiment, right? So what I'm saying is that you could relate to me on that level because you highlighted a shared ambition, right? So that was like intimate contact. So that, you know, so doing that, saying that is what triggers. It was essentially like, woman, you just grabbed my dick. Woman, you just grabbed my dick. Yeah, woman, you just grabbed my dick. You can get it if you want. You can get it if you want. You can get it if you want. Oh, yeah, yeah. So what I mean by that, in my language, a dick has nothing to do really with, the man, you know, penis. A penis is just it's an illustration. So what a man has to offer is his dick. You know, that's his value proposition. So my value proposition as a young man, I had no idea that you knew that you could perceive that, because I'd never said it to you explicitly. So the fact that you said that, and that's what you saw in me, was like, essentially, dude, you just grabbed my dick, bro. You know what I mean? Literally, no, not literally, but yeah. So, so, so that's what I'm saying. So, so what I'm saying is, you were a helper to me in three ways. You saying, dude, black people, you guys are different, bro. This is how you learn. This is how you process things. This is how you do things. So I'm not gonna come here and impose all these course notes on you. You made me repent, dude. Meaning that I changed my attitude all of a sudden. And now I appreciate it a lot more than ever, because now I realize that the trap of going to university is that you feel like I just have to type out a document and give it to someone, and I've communicated. And I think I made that mistake. I think I sent an email one point in time, and you're just like, "What the hell is this?" And unfortunately, at the time, I had no means to actually try to get hold of you and actually have a conversation. And I think on many occasions, I came to the school, tried to get your contacts, tried to actually find a way to actually talk to you in person. Uh, you know, but this is what I'm saying. This is a lesson that I've learned recently, and this is part of the culture that I'm creating with the Zulu social experiment, is actually replanting the Bantu way of life, and actually, you know, you know, selling that to the rest of the world. Because if a person like you, Kim, who behind, would subscribe to it, certainly the rest of the world and anybody could actually see the value in that. So one of the things is being able to sit down and have conversations around the fire, like you mentioned. That's actually the way, like telling stories and sharing music, sharing culture, and sharing perspective. That's how we learn, right? And moving away from like course notes and writing papers and that type of thing. So I'm at a point in my life now where I'm intentionally going to end the African diaspora. And I've created the means and spent the time actually building the systems. And to do that, I have support in the sense that long before I was born, you know, um, there were people that came along and made the same assertions that you made, that, hey, dude, there's somebody that's going to show up. that's gonna end the African diaspora, and this man is called Isaiah Shembe. So ironically, it might sound like something odd, but it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. So I think what I can say, not to be too cold, is, dude, you are like the love of my life. um, um, and you've had a huge ass impact. So whether you like it or not, you know, I'm gonna mention it now. The dude that you married was actually me, and that's why there were certain things happened the way they did, particularly with the guy supposedly, say it now, supposedly losing his wife, and and that's why I understand. That's why he wouldn't want to take his medication because he's probably not crazy, and this is just byproduct of like African spirituality. So things happen with Bantu people. I want to just explain it, right? There's, the Western world deal with writing things down and like you're aware, but with the Bantu peoples, we preserve messages through customs and 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 spoken traditions. So spoken traditions is basically like fairy tales. So it's not like in the Western world where whatever you're reading is probably historical fact if it's in a history book or, you know, this is like literally fairy tale stuff, and in customs. So what's happened to the Bantu peoples is that there's a supernatural, let me put it this way, not even say supernatural, but there's there's a system in place that oversees human activity that's not apparent. I call it the regulator of life. Um, and that supervises us while we're alive and makes sure that, we kind of go through our process. Um, this regulator has entrusted particularly the Bantu peoples to preserve certain customs and spoken traditions that are messages. Um, so the same way you could discern from um, um, from what's the word, carbon dating. You could date a rock type and say this rock type is this many years old by discerning the ratio between the carbon 12 and the carbon 14, or the same way you'd be able, so they, it's the same way you could decode a custom and a spoken tradition and actually get a message, a principle. And that's how we also read omens. And that's omens is like when life incidents happen, those are like communications. It's like, oh wow, so this is what's actually happening. And that's how I can conclude that, hey, Kim, you did not marry. The guy you married was what they call in Zulu, umbambeli. So it's somebody who would, keep the bed warm for the actual husband, right? And now I hope you understand what I'm saying, is that it's not about um, me telling you that I wanted to have an intimate or sexual relationship with you. I think I'm not gonna lie and say, if that's what you wanted, I would have gladly indulged, right? But I think the focus, what I'm trying to point out, is that I'm a man with a purpose, and you came at the right time to help with that purpose. And marrying the man that you married, right, was strategic to you coming and being available to help the guy that you actually married. So I know I'm talking in circles, but I want to wrap it up. You know, you can get it if you want, nigga. Oh, yeah. So it's So I just want to wrap it up. There's a lot to say in a very, don't want to make it a very long communication. But what I'm trying to say is that is that you were a helper to me in the most fundamental way. And now that I'm beginning the social experiment, I anticipate I'll be successful. Um, Maybe I'm delusional because essentially at this point in my life, it's almost like jumping off a cliff and hoping that some imaginary body, oversight body, regulator body, has got my back, and that's why I'm talking about the regulator of life. What I'm saying is that what I'm saying is that um, we were set up, and the dude that you actually married was me, and I'm like, dude, I have to tell you this, and I believe we actually have a future. I believe at this point that not only will I end the diaspora, but we could actually have a future. And I think, you know, as we grow older, I'm much older than I was when I was in my 20s, but, and I'm sure you're much older as well, but um, I think there is hope for a future, you know. I think you've been a helper to me, and this is what this is about. This is what this is about. And I don't know. Um, I don't have any expectation from you actually at this point because I think you have, to a largest extent, have done your part. But I'm not gonna lie and say um, I don't want you to be part of my life. Right? I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm gonna be honest with you. That's what I want to say. Um, yeah, so that's what I mean. Like you can get it if you want. You can keep him if you want. So I titled this, you can keep him if you want. This is the guy that you married, that you think you married, but you actually married his spiritual twin. And I'm gonna tie it up with this. A spiritual twin is like when two different people share similar attributes. You know, name is Melusi, my name is Melusi, from the clan of the NCUBE clan, from the clan of the NCUBE clan. At some point, I lost my shit. According to everyone that knew me, like I probably, who's this guy now? you know, my family experienced that with me. Like, dude, this guy's just lost his mind, and they had to take me to every single traditional healer to find out what the hell is going on. And the tragedy was the fact that every traditional healer was like, this guy's not mad. This guy is, as some of the people called me the king of the Jews concept. Actually called me the king of the white people. Nkosi Belungu. So, and to the dismay of my family, they expected that I would be, a successful professional, have a good job, stable job, have like, the means to kind of support here and there, and you know, um, but it didn't work out that way. I had to take this path where, take on the entire economic system. And I'm saying that me meeting you gave me the tools to actually do what I do, or the perspective and the awareness, stretching a person's mind to like, oh wow, that's So everything now that I do is almost essentially like a resource to reserve conversion. It's like there's an opportunity. Is it feasible? you know. Um, so I appreciate and I don't go as far as saying I love you 2 bits. Google Gaga. so so I could be making claims that make you uncomfortable, but honestly, don't take it that way. I feel like if we pay attention, what I'm saying will be demonstrated in time. So you can keep him if you want. You can keep him if you want.